Since the lockdowns have eased, I've been making the most of our ability to travel. I've ridden at a healthy number of bike parks and trail centres already this year, most of which will be appearing on the channel at some point. Whilst in the Midlands a couple of weeks ago, I decided to explore a brand new trail centre. Not too familiar with the area, I headed about an hour north of Nottingham to a place called Sherwood Pines. I'd heard rumours of a couple of mountain bike trails and some downhill runs that I'm looking forward to riding. This trail centre has all the usual amenities like toilets, a cafe, bike hire shop and plenty of parking. There were also plenty of other mountain bikers turning up, which is a very good sign. There are two main trails here for mountain bikers, the Blue Adventure Trail and the Red Kitchener Trail. I thought I'd hit the Kitchener Trail first, then perhaps head for the more mellow Blue Trail afterwards. The Kitchener Trail is 13 kilometres long and mostly single track. The trail guide boasts some fast single track that provides a physical and mental challenge requiring high levels of skill and fitness. Now this sounds like my kind of trail. So off I went. I love riding natural trails, and the Kitchener is almost all natural. Conditions were dry today too, so the trail should be running at its best.
Alright, let's go.
Warming up on the first few sections, I noticed that the trail seems to flow quite nicely and the setting was pretty pleasant. This could be the beginnings of a very nice day's riding. Expecting some epic features, I brought along my full suspension Cube stereo today. In hindsight, I would have been much happier riding my hardtail here. A full suspension bike of this nature is definitely overkill for this trail centre, and on this type of single track, a hardtail would definitely make things a bit more playful. Putting the pedals in, I was making some good time and ready for action. Making my way along the trail, I was looking forward to those sweet descent sections. So I kept pedaling and I waited. And waited. And waited. But the sweet descent sections never came. It has to be said that this trail is 90% featureless flat pedalling. Every now and then the trail looked like it was just about to get interesting.
Oh, this is more like it. A few flowing berms now. That's nice. Oh, that was short-lived. Back to pedalling.
Descents were often short-lived or slow and featureless. Don't get me wrong, it isn't all bad. I came across a couple of really fun sections, like this one, Tornado Alley. With all the traffic this trail gets, this section is really smooth, especially in today's dry conditions. Because of this, it flows really nicely as you weave your way through the woods. This is one of my favourite sections here. The weaving nature of the trail means it is really playful. It keeps you alert and on your toes. But to be honest, it was just nice to stop pedalling for a bit and point downhill for a change. Again, it got me thinking about how much fun it would be to ride a hardtail on this section. Being able to pump the terrain and put more power into the back end of the bike would really help you rip along this section.
Yeah, it's a good section, nice and flowy.
Now, let's talk about some of the trail features.
Mini drops.
On occasion, it seemed like they'd attempted to make things interesting on the trail with a feature or two, but they didn't seem to add anything to the trail, like a random rock garden, or this bumpy boardwalk thing. All features were poorly placed so that they didn't really work, like this jump on flat trail section.
Oh no. Definitely didn't have the speed for those.
In fact, the most technical feature here is this rock roll, which you can happily do blind. It's a shame that the Kitchener doesn't have more of these interesting features on it. I'm honestly surprised that this is graded a red trail. When I arrived today, I was expecting something very different. Even with the rock roll, I'd say that this was more of a light blue trail. For example, Kermit the Green Trail at Bike Park Wales is way harder than this so-called red. Feeling pretty deflated about the whole thing, I suddenly stumbled on something that might just lift my spirits. 3/4 of the way around, I saw a sign for Bike Park. It pointed me in the direction of some jumps and downhill sections. With nothing to lose, I thought I'd see what they've got.
Let's go and have a look at some of the downhill trails.
Riding up, I was impressed to see a large wooden rolling at the top of a number of downhill trails. Now this looks a bit more like it. I headed up the push-up and dropped in for a couple of runs. These were definitely the best sections of downhill in Sherwood Pines. However, I wouldn't really call this downhill. I've ridden at a number of trail centres in my time, and these trails don't really compare. Although technically the trails are on a gradient, I still had to pedal to maintain my speed, and they were full of loose, flat corners and just a couple of rocks as features. It's fair to say that Sherwood Pines was beginning to bum me out, but just when I was ready to give up and go home, I came across the jumps. From the credibility that the bike park loses with its downhill, it made up for with the dirt jumps. Small, medium and large tabletops and some spicy looking doubles. Although I wasn't kitted up for playing on the jumps, I couldn't resist a quick blast down the smaller line. These jumps really are a diamond in the rough and are well worth visiting on their own. They're great for novices through to seasoned jumpers, and I wish I could have spent more time here. But I had a trail to finish, so I slowly made my way back to the car. Now, some of you may think I've been pretty harsh on these trails, but that's for a good reason, and it's the way they've marketed themselves for extreme mountain bikers.
In terms of the red trail, definitely not. This is an easy blue trail. There's maybe one feature on there which is a double rock roll that may be a red, but the rest of it easy.
So remember that trail guide I spoke to you about? You know, the one that boasts a physical and mental challenge? Well, it turns out the mental challenge on the Kitchener Trail was boredom, and the physical challenge was trying to keep yourself awake on the snoozy trails. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm sure that there are people who love these trails. After all, there were plenty of mountain bikers in the car park.
If you're looking to hit some jumps or have a savage day out, you know, or progress on your bike, this is probably not the place for you. If you're just looking for a, Sunday bimble, or you're riding with someone who's never ridden before, or your kids, this is probably the place for you, even on the red. Everything's rollable, there's no major uphills, there's no really steep downhills, there's nothing serious. Just a little bimble along, really.
When you use words like exciting terrain and high levels of fitness required in your trail description, it conjures up more epic expectations in your mind than flat featureless trails. So apologies if you're a fan of these trails, but Sherwood Pines is not for me. If you're looking to come and ride here, be aware that the steepest thing here are the parking charges. I went to pay for my 2.5 hours parking, costing me a whopping £8.
What the hell?
So join me next week when we'll be back to our normal antics riding some proper trails. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.